depending on how tight we want the edges, a small extrusion and then a larger extrusion. Small, then large. When you're creating all extrusions, it's always good every now and again just to check that your actual normals are actually facing the right way. It's so easy to duplicate everything to get to the end and then have twice as much work to undo. In this particular case, you can see that I've actually created something in reverse, so all we need to do is just flip these around. It's very simple to do. With the model selected, we go to the Utilities, we go to Orient Normals, then to select all faces. Just simply press the space bar and then validate. We can now just turn off the show or hide back faces. Now I'm not going to go through the whole UV process because I'm assuming that from all the great tutorials that have been provided on the Hexagon forum and other places that you'll know how to do this. But what I will say is to keep in mind all these extra tessellations and extrusions that you make, that you're going to have to unwrap this. So keep it very simple. The more simple the geometry, the easier it is to unwrap. Remember that if you're making something and it's very simple with the actual geometry, and the only time that it looks good is when the smoothing's on, you can always go ahead and actually apply one level of smoothness by clicking the lightning bolt in the dynamic geometry, and it will actually up the poly count and retain more of the shape. For the box, I don't feel as though I need to really give you explanations of that because it's made from a cube. Now what I did do is I actually used the actual foot pedal here, or whatever you want to call it, for the actual handles. So that was simple to actually complete that. Again, the lights were made from a circle in centre, and I just simply made a number of extrusions to create the shape that I've got now. Just collapse it so you can see that it's very simple. To create the actual light lens, what I've done is I actually selected the inner faces of where the light lens is going to fit into, and then I copied and pasted this selection, Control and C, Control and V on the PC. Moved this out and scaled it. From here we can just select all the edges and start to extrude inwards to create the light lens. If you find the orientation of the handles are wrong, you may need to turn it back to weld or to remove any dynamic geometry. There we go. Of course, when you go to smooth the lens, it's going to be the correct shape to fit into the actual body. To create any rims, you simply do a similar process. We'd select the edges, Control and C and Control and V to copy and paste for the PC to give us a curve, and then from this curve we can create our rim, or we can create maybe a round tube by using the thickness tool, which is here. Just to show you that quickly, when we apply that, we've got a nice rubber seal that we can put into there, and then when we move this in, we can scale this down so it fits inside that rubber seal. And it's those kind of details that make all the difference. The tail lights were made exactly the same way as I made the front lights. The only difference is I actually selected an edge down the centre and I used the double edge tool, much like we did with the engine, just to create that insert there. In this particular case I applied one level of subdivision by clicking on the lightning bolt. For the actual indicators or the wing mirror, I created it from a cube. Again, we want to keep things very simple as initial stage, because this enables us to build the geometry while having a lot of control over it. This would be like a wing mirror. You can orientate it the way you would want it, and then while you've got that selected, you can apply a shader domain to this. I feel one more extrusion would be necessary. In this particular case, I feel that I can move on from this very low polygon stage and apply one level using the lightning bolt of subdivision here. When it smooths out, it looks something like this. And remember that we can use the taper tool as well. I'm going to just rotate this around this way for the minute. I'm going to use the taper tool. Let's just rotate it back. There we go. And to create the actual little tiny stem that goes from the actual wing mirror, well, you can guess that you can either use the circle from center or again use a 3D primitive cube. Remember to check that there's no reverse normals, and it's a good idea to UV unwrap each part as you do it. So when you create a duplication, which I'll show you now, from the vertex modeling tab, symmetry, then this new item is also going to have the same UVs. In some particular cases, UVs might not be particularly important if you're just going to be applying materials in your rendering application. Something that you have to decide on yourself.